In the last session, we had got through setting up a project, getting different bid packages created, getting different phases under the bid package. So we're going to go ahead and open up the bid package here for our drywall and framing and so forth. So this is basically where it's going to show me what I'm going to analyze my bidding on. So these were the different phases I set up. And if I click on the code, it can sort them. I'm going to confirm that they've got the framing included, drywall hanging, finishing, painting the walls. Some of those type of things were the phases that I want to basically come up with. And this is also where in a future session, we're going to talk about how to actually import your Sage Estimate. So that way you can actually have these budgets already filled out ahead of time. But this is also handy for clients that don't necessarily have, the Sage Estimating or the WinEst or other products out there that they can bring in detail associated with. So you could also come in and manually enter what you think these budgets may be also. So if I go down through here and said that so you can kind of tell that if I had budget numbers that I should be around $120,000 where I was looking at in this particular case. This is where I could start to put subcontractors into my grid. So if I go in and click on this button, by putting something up here would let me search my address book of subcontractors. And we haven't talked about that yet. So for this first one, I'm going to go ahead and just put in a sub down here. And in my case, I'm going to start them with the letter Z because I want to keep them at the bottom because I'm going to go back and clean up these subcontractors out of my database at a later time. So I'm just going to say, maybe I got Bill's Framing out here. So I could type in some sort of a new name of whatever I want. When I hit plus, it'll come up and ask me for a name. So maybe Bill is the name, and maybe I've got a phone number. And I could put in their email address. So now notice that I've got Bill's Framing up here. So this is where I could start to put in different prices, and it will actually, the budget is at least, if I go back to my parent page here, you'll start to see that I've already started to put in, a budget, and I've already got a grand total because in worst case scenario, it's going to go ahead and use my budget number, at least for something until I come up with better numbers and so forth. It's actually got me in here as my budget is where those values are all coming from. So as I now have somebody that maybe has given me a bid, I can actually come back and put those values in. So I could come back in here and let's say that this one was 19,000. And let's say that Bill's Framing only does framing. So in this case here, maybe that's all I'm going to have at that point in time is just whatever that is. So if you notice, it's going to go ahead and say that it's using the 19,000 here. It's still using my budget on these other tasks. There again, if I go back to my summary and take a look, I'll see that it's got my budget in for most of these, but apparently I put under painting walls. So let's go back and fix that because I want that under framing. So apparently I must have got my sort mixed up on me. So I'm going to go ahead and say that the framing is going to be, I don't know, let's say 44,000. And let's go ahead and remove painting out of the list there that Bill doesn't do that maybe. So there again, same type of thing, just a little different order. So now if I come back to my summary, I can kind of see, metal studs. I've got Bill's Framing in here. I've still got my budget numbers in for the rest of them. So that way, as I'm going through analyzing these different bids, it will kind of bring that back to a summary page that somebody else can be reviewing, who's been picked so far and what different subcontractors we're using on what aspects of the project and so forth. So now I'm going to go back up here and let's say that I want to put in something about some drywall hanging. So in my case, I've got a Rockers company out here. So I'm going to go ahead and say I want to add another one, and I'm going to go ahead and pick Rockers. So Rockers Drywall, it's going to come up with Rachel Rocks is the company. So I'm going to go ahead and put that in there. So that was just one I've done earlier. I'm going to go ahead and put that one in there a second time because sometimes people give you prices in a couple different ways that I want to talk about. So basically, I've got Bill's Framing here. I've got the Rockers Drywall in a couple times. So as we look at this, I'm going to say that Rockers only does drywall and finishing. So I'm going to come over here and I'm going to say that maybe they said that this was 31,000. This was 24,000. So in this point there, even though some of these might be higher than my budget, it's still going to use someone's bid over my budget. So these light green are basically the combination it's used so at this point. So it's got my Bill's Framing in here. It's got my Rockers for these two. sections of the drywall work, and it's still picking up my budget for my painting because I don't have anyone that does any painting for me yet. So in this case, I want to also say that Rockers gave me a couple different variations. So they told me if I was going to do either one of these two tasks by themselves, this $55,000 is what they would do it for. But if I would do all of it in one, they would actually do it for $50,000. So in this case, I'm not going to put dollars in there because I don't know how to split it off, because basically they told me they had to have both of these. So I'm going to come down to the total for this, and I'm going to say that this one is going to be $50,000. So once I change the dollar amount here, this changes from being a numeric value to a place where I can actually check and say, what did they include in their scope? So if you notice, when I only had one of these checked, if that one task was $50,000, it's not low. But as soon as I picked up $50,000 for both of those tasks, beats my $55,000 here, now it's going to go ahead and pick up bills framing for this, my rockers for a lump sum of $50,000 to analyze my bid buy. So now you'll kind of start to see part of the power of the metrics is really being able to take different ways that people bid and how they put numbers together to help me really find what that low solution is. So now let's go ahead and add somebody out here also for painting. So I'm going to go ahead and say, maybe I've got ABC Paint here. And really at this point, it doesn't matter what I put in for ABC Paint, it's going to get it because right now it's still using the budget number, but I'm going to go ahead and say that maybe they're giving me some sort of a number. So this is how I can actually start to go in and put in my different subs and vendors that I'm putting prices in associated with and so forth, and actually go in and start analyzing different numbers. So in this case here, it's picked up, my framing, my drywall with this lump sum bid of 50,000 and my painting contractor. So as I come through there, and let's go ahead and say that I've got another painting contractor. Now let's say that this company is a little bit lower. So let's say that they're $10,000. So as I'm looking at these different bids, you can do different things associated with these bids as you're putting them together. So as I'm looking at this number, I could tell that, I thought it was close to 20. Somebody else said it was about 25. So this 10 really scares me as far as if that bid is really complete or not. If I click on the little ellipsis here, I can actually say that I want that bid excluded. So then what the system will do is it'll go back to what the next lowest combination is. So down here, it'll basically show me that my lowest combination is $104,000. But because I've got this exclusion on it, my current solution right now is about $119,000 for this metric. So if I go back to my bid summary here and take a look at it, I can see there's my bid package. Right now I've got, if I had it collapsed, it would actually show me kind of a summary of the subcontractors that I'm using in that section. So I've got, Bill's Framing, Rockers, and ABC of painting and so forth at my $119,000 bid total at this point. And when I open it back up, you can see pretty much who's responsible for each one. So Bill's is this, these two sections are taken care of by Rockers, and there's my painting contractor, and basically how it's coming up with my bid total at this summary and so forth. So that's a basic on how to get subcontractors in there and get some of their values entered in at that point.